Hello, everybody, and welcome to the InkTV Resurgence League Week 1, Day 2. My name is Falco Flyer, and I am joined here by Kbot and 9 Whole Grains. Kbot, how are we doing tonight?
I am glad it is Friday, and I am glad I get to spend another night watching some incredibly high-octane Splatoon, Falco. I think tonight's going to be a good one.
Yeah, it was a pleasure casting with you last night. And 9, you are here for the first time for the league. How are you doing today?
I'm doing quite well, thank you for asking, and high octane is a great way to describe what we're going to see tonight. Some absolute dogfights that we'll see out on the maps tonight, and some exciting teams that I can't wait to break down.
Should be really incredible. And remember, this is day 2 of our event. We had day 1 yesterday with 4 teams who played. We saw Starburst take on Graveyard Shift, winning that set 2-0. We'll kind of explain the rules a little bit later and how the sets work. And then Jackpot winning 2-0 in sets against Nightmare. So wonderful, incredible games. And we have 2 more matches that are happening tonight. Crush Zoda versus Zero Deaths, followed by Alliance Rogue versus Penguin. Again, 8 teams who are just really clashing with each other, 4 of them playing tonight, and it's going to be a fantastic night. But before we get started, let's take a look and see how this tournament is laid out with how the games, sets, and matches work.
The InkTV Resurgence League is finally here, with 8 of the best Splatoon teams that have qualified through 2 double elimination brackets so far. But what exactly does the league look like? Don't worry, we've got you covered. Based on their qualifying performance, each team is placed into one of 2 round-robin groups. That means each team has 3 different opponents they'll face during the league's regular season. The top 2 in each group will move on to the single elimination playoffs bracket at the end of the season. Each match will feature a set play format. To kick things off, a coin flip will occur to determine which team will ban away one of the 4 ranked modes from the match. The opposite team will then decide the order in which the ranked modes are played. Each mode has 3 maps, and a team needs to win 2 out of those 3 maps to take the set on that ranked mode. The team that comes away with 2 out of the 3 ranked mode set wins will be victorious in the match. Every single match will be streamed on Thursday and Friday nights over at InkTV's Twitch channel. The show will start at 6:40 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, with a ton of commentators and analysts to help break down the game and give their opinions and insights into what's actually going on. Take it from me, you won't want to miss this one, because this is our Resurgence.
All right, so wonderful setup. Kind of a unique structure too, different than a lot of tournaments that we had seen. Pretty obvious based on yesterday's interview with Madness of him not really knowing how this is going to work, which was really funny. I'm glad we got to see that. But we will be getting started shortly with our first match. That is going to be Crush Soda versus Zero Deaths, and there's a lot to say about both of these teams. Kbot, I'll toss it to you first. What is one thing that you are really looking forward to in this match?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's really for Crush Soda all about their aggression, right? We've seen this team continually perform and continue to find openings on this aggressive front, led by players like Kyo and Goss, who just come in and basically tear it up, right? That's the name of the game. That's what they're trying to do. In a lot of cases, it's able to disrupt and move around a lot of teams. And I think for me, I'm really looking forward to seeing what exactly they're going to bring to the table versus Zero Deaths, because I imagine they're going to try to pick up the pace quite a bit. And that's even as well goes to show that they banned away splat zones tonight. So we won't be seeing that in the first set. Splat zones tends to be one where you want to favor a little more stability, right? And less of this constant pressure, constant appearance in all the places. And so I think that's really what Crush Soda is going to try to do tonight.
That's right, and yeah, Kbot, just like you said, splat zones will be banned because of our rule set here in 9. I'll toss it to you first, kind of about that decision. What kind of thought process do you think went into that?
Well, it's pretty simple in one respect. Crush Soda just didn't win on splat zones very often over the course of this. We've got some great statistics that a number of wonderful people have put together there. 50% the Crush Soda win rate on splat zones. That is a coin flip. We're not in the business of flipping coins here. We're in the business of winning games. So I would say if you have a mode that you lose on, naturally you're going to want to go against it. I don't think we have to look any further than that for that question to be answered.
Well, hey, we've talked about Crush Soda a little bit, and we have a preview video for 0 deaths, so check this out.
At least one death is now qualified for the InkTV Resurgence League that will be taking place in the upcoming weeks.
I got an appetite, let's bake ourselves a treat. What you've been mixing, serve it up the way you please. I love the way you shake, you stir, you heat, you squeeze. So thick, push up and butter me.
I'm Theoben, the captain of 0 Deaths, and I serve as a team support and sometimes Isabel's personal meat shield. I'm also mostly our in-game leader, which means that I have to give calls on where the team has to move and push together.
Hello, I am Isabel, and I'm the skirmisher for 0 Deaths. I try to open up pushes and get useful trades so my team can push in. I bring to the team a more aggressive and faster playstyle, and in the team chat I bring cat pictures and gifts.
Hi, I'm Storm, the backline for 0 Deaths, and I bring more survivability to the team and punishments for people that are overextending.
Yo, I'm Jay and I'm subbing 0 Deaths. I'm a flex player that is pretty much aggressive and play with Isabel.
And this is looking like it may be able to take the lead at least.
Oh, with 2 in 1 toss, it's just Obito left.
So our team's biggest strength, in my opinion, is the speed we bring to the table and also our ability to adapt. So for offensive pushes, we can play very fast with Isabel trying to push in and me and Jay mostly trying to follow up. And on defense, we have like the specials with mostly 2 splashes sometimes, and then use tri-strikes on Rainmaker or tower control to also have a lot of pressure.
I think Goofy fits to our team perfectly because also in VC, I feel like we are less serious than other teams. Sometimes just throwing in a joke.
Everybody is really good friends with each other. Maybe we lost a match, and instead of being quiet and like staying to our own, one of us at least is gonna try to make a joke to brighten the mood up. Then after that, we come back strong.
And yeah, I think we love cats as well.
Cat kitties.
Dude, they're gonna call us a furry team.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
All right, so a wonderful preview there. Nine, you have some thoughts. What is running through your mind at the end of that video?
Well, it's just, you can always judge an interview by the biggest jewel of wisdom and knowledge that you pull from it. And that remark at the very end of they're going to call us a furry team. To our wonderful interview staff, I don't know how you managed to pull that out or if they volunteered it, but that is the hard-hitting journalism that you can come to expect from the InkTV crew and this event.
And K-Bot, they mentioned that they specialize in speed and just in being able to adapt in a lot of these maps and modes. So moving on, of course, playing Crush Soda, a very strong team that we have seen. How do you think they are going to compare against fighting them?
It's going to be a difficult one tonight, especially given who's actually playing for them this evening. Isabel is off tonight, won't be able to participate on the team, and so instead they're bringing in Phoenix, which actually is on the main roster for 0 Deaths. Wasn't on the qualifying roster, but still is an incredibly strong player in his own right, most notably known for being on the machine, I'd say, most of the time. So what I'm really hoping that, 0 Deaths does is they really try to play a little more to the actual name of their team. I want to see them play a little bit more passively, try to capitalize on any overextensions that Crush Soda might throw at them, because I fear without Isabel, they're not going to have the ability to pick up the pace in ways that they might want to. Obviously, all these players are going to be strong in their own right, and they might find a way to do it and prove me wrong all the same, but I still think I prefer a little bit more passive play from them tonight compared to the aggression that we're about to see from Crush Soda.
Yeah, and 9, going from a name of at least 1 death to 0 deaths, you're dropping Isabel, you're dropping a Tetra player, picking up a machine player. How is the rest of the team going to have to adapt to that?
Well, the nice thing is if you pick up a machine player and you put it with a core of 2 shooter players and then Jay, who has played the Stamp or another machine, you don't really have to reinvent the wheel here. That might be the most common composition that doesn't involve 3 Splash-O-Matic, so it's not a game that they're going to be unfamiliar with. To K-Bot's point here, it's going to be a matter of how they can keep up with the pace that Crush Soda is going to bring to them. Crush Soda's formula is one that is written in the stars. You have Kyo to open things up as your engager. You have 2 incredible shooter players following behind to close it out there, and you've got Wave, who can flex between a number of backline weapons and also a machine as well. So both of these teams have to be very familiar with the idea of the other team. It's going to be a matter of, again, the maps that they play on, how they attack, and really not letting the momentum get against them too early in these games.
And let's take this moment to highlight 2 of the players, one from each team, and take a look at some of their stats that we have to show you guys. It's really cool what our crew has been able to do. So K-Bot, run me through this 0 death stats.
Yeah, so we wanted to pick apart the backline battle here. Nine was talking about wave a moment, so let's switch over to Storm. And what I was incredibly impressed by, even on the eye test alone, let's ignore the numbers for a moment. Storm was so precise, especially when he was playing the ballpoint for the team, right? Which is a weapon we don't actually see a lot of in Western high-level play for whatever reason. And I think I might catch a lot of players, particularly Crush Soda, off by surprise. That little bit of extra range that the max range ballpoint has over the heavy splatling might be something that catches them off by surprise. And you see it, Storm is actually incredibly active, averaging 7.9 splats per game, and obviously not really necessarily going down in the process and going back to that respawn. So Storm is an incredibly active part of the team, even though we think of, generally speaking, an anchor player not doing that. Expect to see Storm come up with probably a double or a triple here or there.
Yeah, and I'll toss it to you, Nine, for our other player on the side of Crush Soda. We saw the numbers were, a little larger on the left side, but that doesn't mean that there's really nothing bad to say about any of the players from Crush Soda comparing those numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. One number that I'll throw out here, I guess 2 numbers here on Wave's side. You see at the very bottom there, a 58% weapon pick here on the sloshing machine. And then I want you to take a look at the deaths up at the top. Only 4 deaths. And I know that number is somewhat burgeoned by, again, some backline choices here, but Storm plays entirely backlines and still has died more. So that tells me that when Wave does switch over to the machine, they understand the assignment here. Let's go ahead, get a decent amount of paint per minute. As you can see right there, a nice little metric for you, 1442, not bad at all. And if I do go over to the machine, it is not my job to dive in and fight. There are many, many machines out there whose sole role is to go in, fight, and open things up. They've already got something. So for Wave to be able to play multiple different weapons and understand what each of those brings to what the comp needs and what the players needs tells me all I need to know about how important and integral all those weapons are for Crush Soda's aggressive play.
Well, hey, we saw the numbers from both of these teams, but we, as the casters and the commentators, we actually made our own predictions at the start of week 1. So let's take a look and see what we decided, who we thought were going to win for these sets. And we are looking at the 2 bottom rows here. We have Crush Soda and 0 deaths, and then of course Penguin and Alliance Rogue. This one is a little more split. Actually, this is the most, I'll say, diverse pick that we have, even though it's not really that diverse, K-Bot.
Yeah, I here believe in 0 deaths. And let me walk this all out for you, okay? We've seen over the course of the past month, Crush Soda a little shaky, right? They don't know if they want to keep competing. They don't know if they want to keep going for it. And I've been in a team environment, right? I know the fact that these players might not necessarily be trusting each other as much as they normally do, right? I know that Kyo's starting to get fed up with the players that he's playing with, right? And his ability to actually lead this roster on a success. And so based on what I was seeing and what I was observing, again, the eye test alone shows here that if 0 deaths gets on their comfort weapons, they're going to have a pretty solid time and they're going to be able to put on a pretty good showing. And so I think they might be able to pull off what most people might consider to be an upset here tonight.
All right. Thank you, K-Bot. And I mean, Nine, we both went down the line, like team for team, choosing the same one along like most of our casters did too. But I guess what K-Bot said, we'll kind of be surprised. And to your point, just Kyo having some different opinions and thoughts about how the team is headed, and it's going to be really interesting to see as we head into our first match. Let's take a look at the maps and modes once again for the games that we will be seeing today. And once again, we will be starting on tower control, playing at least 2 of these 3 maps. So Nine, walk us through kind of some of the comps that we could see for Inkblot Art Academy.
Oh, you want me to describe Inkblot Art Academy tower control? Folks, I will not dress this up any more than I have to here. You're gonna see almost certainly double Splash-O-Matic come out. I would not be surprised if one or both of these teams brings out the double-double, which is what we call the double Sloshing Machine, double Splash-O-Matic composition. I think the big question is going to be what Storm opts to go with. K-Bot noted earlier, hey, that ballpoint's pretty strong, and it also has arguably the most buffed special from the most recent patch, which is that Inkjet can get to a lot of really interesting attacking positions on Inkblot and Sturgeon Shipyard to that note. So whether or not Storm opts to go with that or one of the other picks, certainly up for discussion. But listen, if you come to a tower control map or any number of maps here on tower control, it's because you believe in your sloshing machines. And I imagine that's exactly what Crowshota was looking for, and look for them to stack up on that.
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, it's really going to be interesting, and it really just depends on how well you can position some of your players, get that chip damage to help take control. And Kbot, I mean, what can you tell us, I'll say, a little bit more about Zero Deaths and how they can, on this specific map and mode, contest against Crush Soda?
I mean, again, I think that ballpoint's going to play a role. I expect to see Storm on it. I think it worked the best for them after the few looks they kind of went on. And, you know, I was talking with Teobin in the interim kind of before this match, and he told me that this team really hasn't played together much, right? They're still trying to figure out exactly what works in their compositions, and I think they found something that clicked in their losers bracket run back in qualifier 1, most notably with Storm on that ballpoint. I'm saying if they can keep things at a distance, I expect Jay and Teobin to be able to clean things up on both of those splashes, and then we'll look for the entry picks with Phoenix on that machine, as well as Storm trying to catch anyone off guard with that ballpoint's range. I know I keep harping on it, but that's because I genuinely believe it will be critical here.
And 9, you know, at this kind of a level of play, you know, how important is it if you have really been playing with your team for so long? A lot of these players can play very well independently, but when you would kind of play together for the first time more in a more recent environment, how does that compare against a team who has been, I'll say, pretty well established?
Yeah, it's kind of a question that we've been trying to answer for a really long time. The team culture versus the pickup culture, how you'd like to slice it up in that respect. But it all boils down to this, right? Are you eliminating the dead time in your game? And I'm not talking about being sent back to spawn. I am saying when it is time to move the tower, how many seconds are you wasting deciding who is on the tower? Or does somebody immediately say, I'm almost at crab, I'll ride tower? That time, listen, we've commentated a lot of Splatoon here, fellas. We have done so much analyzing of this game and these players, and we see so many times how much even a few seconds can ruin a push, can make a defense, and that's really what this is all aiming to piece together. If you're a team that, you know, has stuck together for a while, yes, you know what comps you'll like, but I don't think that that's really the big benefit, especially in a meta when we're currently picking the same handful of weapons. Let's be real with it. So that doesn't necessarily mean that a team like Zero Death that's come together recently and hasn't gotten to play together a lot can't do it, but it does, in my eyes, give the edge to a team that at least knows the tendencies of each other. And as we know, Crush Soda has been doing it as a team here for the better part of a couple months.
And Kbot, there are sometimes non-audio cues that you can just kind of pick up from some of your teammates. Oh, my backline is in this position. That means I should go move over to the plat and try and get some picks. And it really it makes it more interesting when you're able to have that level of synergy.
Yeah, I mean, and to that point, right? And Nine's point exactly here, this ability for the players to have been playing together and know intuitively what their teammates are trying to do without that need for that communication, right? When you're first starting off, that communication component incredibly important. As you get less down the line, perhaps it can be more intuitive, it can be faster, and it can be something to the level like we see with, you know, Starburst, right? Where these players, they probably don't even have to like think much about the fact that they're cycling their crabs around, right? They just do it, right? Because they've been doing it for so long and they've been playing with one another. So to that end, you know, we'll see what exactly happens here for Zero Deaths, but I'm expecting they've come prepared this week, specifically looking for this match, and I'm really excited to see what they've got to show for it.
Yeah, and I'll say the beautiful part about this league is you know well ahead of time what opponent you're going to face. There is a lot to prepare for, and keep in mind, we only have 3 maps per mode. So 9, in order to kind of warm up and practice, you are really grinding those specific maps, aren't you?
You're grinding those maps, and this map list was also chosen by as close to a consensus as you're going to be able to get in a community like ours that's so spread out. So you're absolutely correct. You know, every little nuance that you can find on these maps where you want to put certain people, and even getting comfortable moving around these maps. I know you'd say, taking Inkblot, for example, we've played on this for years. There's surely nothing more, but let me tell you, these stages have more to give. And again, the subtle nuances, the slight pieces of movement. If you're going to make a jump, which part do you land on? Do you stay in the air a little bit too long, or do you immediately get back into your squid form on the edge of the wall and start swimming forward? So that's something that I think, not that we take for granted as much, but it's something that having that much more prep time and understanding of what map you're going to be playing on can really lead you to, if nothing else, become cognizant of these small nuances of your gameplay.
And K-Bot, it's not just the maps and modes that these teams are very familiar with practicing, it's also the players on the other team. Remember, these are the top of most of the Western players that we have in this league. They know each other's play style, so there's even a lot more that goes in that's involved with this too. You might have a specific comp that works for you, and you just have to be well adjusted to how your opponent's comp is going to be.
Falco, theoretically, you're correct, but I think Madness disproved all of that and threw that out the window for most of us last night, because some of these players don't actually know each other, but that's what makes this even more interesting, right? These more unknown entities, such as Zero Deaths, now have a stage to try to prove their worth. That's what these events are all about for these kinds of teams, and I believe that this roster might have the ability to actually do it.
Yeah, and let's kind of talk about that, because yesterday we saw that Starburst, arguably, I will say, the #1 seed that we have in this tournament, lost their very first game, caught us all off guard. So the seeding kind of just goes out the window of what we can expect. So Nine, what is on the line for Zero Deaths as they are coming into this league, I'll say, as one of the underdogs?
Yeah, what's on the line? Sometimes it's a matter of proving it to yourself. We have seen, not too many times because the Blue Bloods tend to reign in this scene, but whenever a team gets the win, and I'm using that as a broad term, but you both get the gist of what I'm saying. When you get the win, it all changes for you. Now suddenly you believe that you are not simply a training partner for these indomitable teams. You are now on pace with them. And it's, I think, sometimes difficult when you know that these players are practicing with each other all the time. A lot of them are close friends, to think of, oh, their team is doing this, we're doing this, we're all just playing the same game. But sometimes a little bit of success, that nice little taste, can really change how you approach these games. And for Zero Deaths, that's what I'd love to see. They said it in the video. They're all very close friends. That's a recipe for success in most regards when it comes to a team sticking together and, more than anything, enjoying playing the game. What a novel concept, I know. But I'll be interested in seeing, again, if they do get this win, if they continue to ride that out, if they stick as a static team, and what that means for the rest of European Splatoon. Because I do know that Zero Deaths predominantly European, and as that goes forward.
Yeah, and so you mentioned about how, you know, coming from the underdog perspective, but K-Bot, what about coming from the top and maybe getting that loss? You're in that Starburst situation. Does that kind of like maybe ground you and bring you back to reality a little bit?
I mean, it frankly depends on the team, right? A team like Starburst is like, okay, you know what? We can make the adaptation, right? We can find the way. We can pick apart their play style. We can play a little better. We haven't had many warm-up games, right? They may not have been scrimming as much this week. There are so many things that they can be like, all right, you know what? We can reset this. We can bounce right back. That is really what you're looking for out of these experienced teams. Will Crush Soda be able to do that if they find themselves in this situation? Well, we'll have to wait and see, because they haven't necessarily been in all of those kinds of situations before, especially in long, extended set play formats where we're potentially talking about 6 or 9 games over the course of the night tonight. So we'll see exactly what ends up happening here.
Zero Deaths and Crush Soda going to get started very shortly, but for now, we are going to be tossing it over to our casters for this first game. That will be Nox and Fusion, so both of you, take it away.
Alrighty, everybody, and welcome back to the InkTV Resurgence League, Week 1, Day 2. We are going to be seeing Zero Deaths versus Crush Soda. I am joined today by the lovely Nox. How are you doing today?
I am doing wonderfully, really excited to see this set, especially after all we were just hearing about Zero Deaths and Crush Soda. What are your thoughts coming up on this?
This is definitely a set I was anticipating. If anyone took a peek at the caster predictions, I'm not anticipating an upset, but if it's going to happen this week, I feel like this is going to be the set to do it. And something that I really wanted to get into, for this week is the ballpoint. I think that Zero Deaths typically runs unconventional team comps compared to everyone else in the tournament. We're going to be seeing ballpoint, no Tetra today coming out from Zero Deaths. We may see a Charger coming out from Crush Soda with Wave on their side playing it as well. Most teams have kind of opted to drop it at this point and just pick up another of the machines or the Splashamatics. But both these teams may be maybe rethinking their strategies a bit as they face each other today.
Yeah, they definitely might. I'm really excited in seeing Zero Death's more aggressive playstyle coming out here. I know that won't be quite the same as usual since Isabelle isn't here, and Isabelle does really push that style for them. I'm also, and I mean, Crush Soda is Crush Soda. We kind of know what to expect from them. It probably will be leaning towards that double machine, double splash territory, but I've been loving seeing that C-Jet come out from them sometimes. I think that's been so interesting.
Yeah, C-Jet's definitely a weapon that's kind of surged in popularity after a top player made a tweet. This always happens. And yeah, Ice kind of posted about C-Jet at some point. Starburst started using it. More people are using it. It's such a good weapon into the current metagame. I'm wondering if we're going to see it. I doubt we're going to see it coming into the first set on tower control, but perhaps that's something to look out for as we head into Rainmaker after this. But something that I would like to point out is that the teams have both decided to ban splat zones. Only one team actually banned it, but both of them would have banned splat zones. So after Crush Soda had a bit of a struggle on splat zones in the qualifiers, they seem to be a little bit hesitant to run it again against a high-level team like Zero Deaths, and opting instead to go for more scrappy, more, I'd say, momentum-based modes. And I'm kind of wondering what their thought process is, because Isabelle is not here today, which means we're kind of going to be seeing a different dynamic out of Zero Deaths.
We probably will be seeing a slightly different dynamic, but from what I understand, the flex player that they have coming in as a sub is pretty good at flexing around to more skirmisher style weapons, which is what Isabelle typically plays. So they probably still will be running a pretty skirmishy style comp, just because if you're running an anchor in this current meta, I think it's something that you really need to have somebody that can just kind of continuously go in for you. As we are getting into TC Inkblot here.
Oh, here we go. Game one of set one. We have double machine ballpoint splash, and we have the tried and true double machine double splash on the other side. Definitely that ballpoint is going to be the weapon to look after. The ballpoint just consistently providing pressure with the long range painting ability, and most other weapons kind of struggling individually to them. Ballpoint not even having such a strong weakness, but Kyo looking to get things started with an early pick already. 1v1, one down on each side in this situation at the start of the game. Both teams scrapping the Inkjet, looking to make an opening, and a very nice trade comes out from Storm on the ballpoint.
Yeah, Storm doing a great job there of just trying to make sure that they can stay alive long enough for their teammates to push back in. Really incredible pick there coming out, as we are seeing right now. Zero Deaths just skirmishing around this tower, managing to keep it for a bit longer. Right now, we're seeing Storm really trying to get that pick on Thunder, not quite able to find it, as Kyo now is going to start moving that tower a little bit forward.
Ew, I just realized that's triple fizzy bomb. I just thought about that coming out from Zero Deaths. God, that's got to be obnoxious to play against. Bomb defense a little bit better. Kyo trying to get up aggressive with the tri-strikes coming out. They're able to not quite get up there. The ballpoint just forcing them to back down, and that's an important spot to keep them back from. Once they get up into your plat, it could be lights out. But Storm on this Inkjet shutting things down yet again, and that's going to be Zero Death stabilizing after a push that looked pretty strong coming out from Crush Soda that only got to 91.
Yeah, and I think a huge part of them being able to hold that push off was Storm up there on that ballpoint. You really cannot underestimate how much of a difference an anchor can make against a really hyper-aggressive comp. And sadly, we are seeing a DC coming out here, so right now Zero Deaths is just gonna have to try and hold on here as the trip strikes are coming out, and it seems like they are a little confused as to what to do.
Well, we were hoping that this wouldn't come to fruition, but I feel like every time that we end up with an overseas transatlantic match, EU versus NA or the like, we're getting a little bit of funny Nintendo disconnects, which is quite unfortunate, but it looks like Zero Deaths is going to seed the game at this point, which is quite unfortunate. There are no deplay rules, but I'm wondering if we're going to replay. We are. Okay. Apologies. There are DC rules in this so that means that we will likely be seeing a replay between these two teams. That was one of the machines who ended up disconnecting. Was that... I do not know who that was who disconnected.
I did not quite catch it either.
Either way, I'm glad it happened early in the game because that was as neutral a situation as it could be.
Yeah.
It could be a little bit frustrating when you get a push in or you're getting something going and DC happens, whether that means you have to stop the game or whether that means you just lose. Awesome.
So we are going to be getting a replay out of this. And it's definitely always really hard to bounce back from a DC, even when you get the replay. It's a very hard place to be in mentally because you were really ready to just keep playing the game. And it's always a bit of a mental loss. But we did hear Zero Deaths in their interview talking about how they tend to be pretty good at bouncing back from things that tend to knock other teams down a bit more. So hopefully we'll get to see that coming out here.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly a very resilient team. We're going to be seeing same comps and everything coming back out. Do you think teams are going to kind of play the opening a little bit different? Because DC, even though it's technically a fair replay, sometimes when a team gets a strong opening and then a DC happens, they rethink it, do it a little bit different.
Yeah, I think there is a chance of that. I do think Zero Deaths was probably at least somewhat content with how it went for them. They managed to fend off that big push that Crush Soda was trying to make at the start. And they also were able to win a lot of their 1v1s early on. Obviously, they'd prefer if their ballpoint stayed up a little bit longer in that initial opening. But they were doing a really great job at holding down mid. Both teams, I think, were probably relatively content with what was happening there. Neither of them were probably thrilled with it. It was very skirmishy. It was a lot of like a single player goes down on each side and both sides are still stuck in that very neutral position. And that's going to be a lot of what we see here, I think, in the first couple minutes, especially of Inkblot, because you do need such a solid opening to really get a push going on it.
Yeah, and I think that we've looked at some stats before the game started, but I do have some extra ones that I have been looking at. These are from the qualifiers, and of the 8 teams in the league, Crush Soda has both the highest paint per minute and the highest kills per minute in the league, but the second highest deaths per minute. So we're going to be looking at a very resilient team. You knock them down, they get right back up. They're just going to keep coming. And I think that kind of leans into what the analysts were talking about beforehand. Kyo is going to be playing more of an anchor role to some extent. They're going to be staying alive, allowing their team to get back in and continue Crush Soda's momentum.
Yeah, definitely. I also think there is an element there of even when we're seeing Wave on Machine, as we heard the analyst mention earlier, it's not going to be the most aggressive machine play. It's going to be a lot more fizzies. It's going to be a lot more focused on staying alive. Wave is really going to be focused on just making sure the objective can move forward and maintaining space around it. It's a very different use of machine to what a lot of people typically think of with the weapon, but it can do that job incredibly well on a lot of maps and modes, and Inkblot TC is definitely one of them.
Yeah, certainly. Both teams extremely familiar with Inkblot TC at this point. Oh, goodness. Yeah, but interestingly, it's not quite as strong for Crab as I think it once was. Typically, getting a Crab up onto the enemy plat was just game over. But now teams, with Crab being much more vulnerable to like triple Ink Strike, to Inkzuka, Inkjet, it's not something you can entirely rely on. So teams are kind of just minimizing the risk. The double machine is just extremely well-rounded. Fizzy bomb weapons just have so many options, and you can see that both teams are kind of enjoying them as they pull 3 out on Zero Deaths and 2 out for Crush Soda.
Yeah, and we are going to be getting back into the match very shortly. Very excited to see how this next one goes, as we should be seeing, hopefully, a stronger opening out of one of the two teams, as they really should be able to know what the other team wants to do. Though, of course, there is always that element of, well, they know now. Maybe we should also change it up. So it should be an exciting situation. I do also love seeing the triple strikes coming out more often. I think that they are a great special, annoying to deal with, but a great special and so incredible at space control and allowing openings for things like Machine to get in.
Yeah, absolutely. Both teams just kind of playing the neutral game yet again. Neither team had each other's number at the start last time, but it looks like at the start here, it's going to be Crush Soda that takes the early advantage to going down the third one and trying to push onto the enemy plat, but suddenly Crush Soda gets surrounded. The machines dive in with the ballpoint, and that's going to be Jay and Phoenix cleaning things up. Goss finding themselves in an awkward position. They are going to team up with one of their teams, with Kyo, and manage to get a trade out of the situation. But now it looks like Zero Deaths is going to be starting their first push of the game if they can get their specials on in time.
Yeah, and they are popping their specials relatively early, but it's working out really well for them, allowing to break through that first checkpoint, always a critical thing to do. I did call it a little bit early, but they did manage to do it. I didn't quite trace it. Really great pick there coming out of Crush Soda, and they are just looking to retain space. They are looking to regain mid, as we are seeing the Inkjet most likely gonna go down on landing there, as we just saw. No DCs quite yet. Surprisingly, with that
You just had to say something.
I did. It was one of those sets. Yeah, it's just always unfortunate. That was a really solid opening from Zero Deaths. They were doing a great job. We saw Storm get some incredible picks there at the start to really just prevent Crush Soda's forward push, but it just doesn't matter. If you have a DC, there's not much you can do in a 3v4, and it seems like both teams are pretty aware of that right now.
Well, that's kind of not an ideal situation. Coming into this match, both teams are more than aware that there's an ocean, a gigantic ocean between them. There were DCs in the qualifiers, so it's something they are mindful of, but it's something you can never truly prevent because you can't really change your situation. So at some point, you just kind of need to pray. It's an unfortunate situation on all sides.
It is. It's something that we as a community are fairly used to. It is still upsetting to have to deal with, but they're like, it's a very safe assumption to assume that all of these players are wired and doing everything they can to prevent this. And it's just kind of an inevitability to some degree, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's an ocean, like an entire ocean between Crush Soda and most of Zero Deaths. Like, even if you like shot a laser beam from one side of the Earth to the other, it's gonna take a bit. I don't remember. Doesn't it take like, I don't remember how long it takes to get to the get around the Earth, but it's a non-zero amount of time. That's for sure. Very important facts about science.
Yeah,
everyone likes science.
Science is admittedly not my strongest subject. I got a history degree, but definitely seems like it would take more than 0 seconds for anything to get around the Earth. Pretty confident in that one. It is always unfortunate when things like this happen. I am not quite sure what's going to happen next. I would be surprised if there is another replay, to be quite honest. Usually that's not how DC rules work. Okay, there will actually be another replay. Great news for Zero Deaths. And they will be able to have another shot at this. Always really nice to be able to have that. Always really nice to be able to try and set something up yet again. And hopefully this time, there have been a few changes being made behind the scenes to hopefully keep this from happening again.
Yeah, well, shoutouts to Crush Soda for being really good sports about this. They want to take the win. They want to take the win. What, I don't even know what the phrase is. They want to take it like they
want a real win.
Yeah, they want a real win. They didn't come here to just like take a win off a team that they thought they could beat anyways, right? You know, if you take a win over like a team you stand no chance against, you're like, I don't care. I want #1 in the league. But if you take a win against a team who you're gonna beat anyways, that's just like wow, you're too scared to fight them. Come on.
Exactly. And also, like, as we're both also players, it's just nice to get the real wins. Like the DC wins are like, yeah, cool, we have an advantage, neat. It's not the same. It's not why you compete. It doesn't give you that same thrill.
No. There's yeah, the thrill of just like watching the enemy just T-pose and hover into the sky for like 20 seconds and then gaining a point on your internet matchmaking system doesn't really feel as good.
No. That was an interesting DC. Not the most wild one I've seen while commentating, but it was an interesting one for sure. You don't often see the person that does levitate randomly and not die not be the one to DC. So that was a surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see. We did dive into some of the stats from before the game, but I did want to take a look at the other stats that I calculated for the other teams in the league. Something that I thought was really interesting was that Starburst had the least paint per minute, the least kills per minute, and the least deaths per minute. It's just like pure efficiency. And you look at Crush Soda, and it's like the complete opposite end of the spectrum. I think one thing I did want to point out, though, is specials per minute for Crush Soda is extremely high. It's double Starbursts. It is about 7 compared to 3.5 for Starburst in the qualifiers. So it really does seem like Crush Soda's strategy is get in, get specials, die, repeat, and just keep doing that. You get in, you booyah, you die, you get in, you get booyah, you keep going, you know? And it works for them. So we are going to be seeing whether teams will manage to make it past 1 minute this time. Same thing on both sides coming out. We've got the blue and yellow. What do we have again, Nox?
Yes, and we are getting back into it. We are seeing Drop Roller on that ballpoint, something we hadn't pointed out before. Makes a lot of sense with that Inkjet to just try and add to that survivability, since Inkjet is such a punishable special. And we are seeing Fizzies and Trip Strikes coming out very quickly here. And of course, we are just going to see a ton of Fizzies. There are a total of 5 of them on the map, which is a wild amount of Fizzy Bombs, to be honest.
Yeah, it's an absolutely insane amount, and that's kind of discouraging either team from pushing, but it actually looks like Crush... No, never mind! Just as I say that, said Crush Soda had the advantage, but this time, a really strong opening coming out from Zero Deaths. They now have an Inkjet on the enemy plat, trying to keep Crush Soda all the way back in spawn. They're managing to not... Oh my god, we're doing this again.
We're doing this again.
But they haven't... No, we're living.
So far, so
living.
good. So far, so good. There's definitely some funky stuff happening, but the tower is stopped moving. The Inkjet has never landed. There isn't a DC. There is a game happening, sort of. That's a lot of DCs. Oh boy. You know, like, you remember how I was talking about that wasn't the wildest DC? This one might beat it, actually. This one might beat the wildest one I've seen on camera before. The battle has been ended.
Right, that's a feature.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's a useful feature. That's unfortunate. That is 3 games in a row. That was admittedly an even more eventful DC. What a great opening out of Zero Deaths, though. Incredible opening. Just a great opening. They did do an excellent job playing off of each other. Storm getting that pick on the last splash that was up was fantastic. And then they did set up their push really well. That ballpoint using Inkjet there, and then Splatoon 3 moment happened.
Well, I don't know exactly where we're going to go from here. Okay, yeah. Well, we are doing one more.
One more.
We're going again. We go again.
Yet again, we will see the same comps. Maybe Zero Deaths will get another exciting opening. Maybe it'll be Crush Soda. Maybe it'll be like the first 2, where not much happened at the start. You know, there's a lot of options here. Who do you think? Do you think there's going to be an explosive opening this time, Fusion?
It might be someone's router that explodes, but yeah. I think my favorite part of this whole situation is the voice chat we're all in, or like the video chat we're all in. K-Bot has just been slowly sinking down into his chair, and only the top half of his forehead was like visible for a good like 5 minutes while all those DCs were happening.
You know, it's a key part of Splatoon 3 is knowing how to deal with VCs as a caster, as a commentator, as a player. It is an inescapable fact of this game, sadly. And until we get more support from, Nintendo on that, there's not much we can do. It is not something that we have too much control over. And both of these teams are being great sports about it. And I'm glad they're still continuing to try and play it out.
Yeah, I mean, it is something worth mentioning that I think most most games esports don't play inter-region games, especially as frequently as Splatoon does. So while this sucks.
This is a little extreme. Even by Splatoon standards, even for interregional, this is extreme.
Yeah,
I think both of us have played against plenty of EU teams and not had this happen. It definitely, at least in my experience, this is one of the elements of 3 that has been worse for 2 than me, is connectivity stuff.
Yeah, to some extent, I think like Splatoon 3 has had some issues with connectivity compared to Splatoon 2. I think my favorite part though is that at least the DCs look funny.
They do look so much funnier, and it's not just like a minute of staring at the opening screen and going, "Oh no, not again." And then somebody doesn't DC, and you're just like, "Well, now we're just gonna get a weird DC in the middle of the game instead. This isn't better. Now it's just a funny DC in the middle of the game that you don't expect, which is, you know, more exciting as a player. At least you get funnier clips out of it. Gotta love the good Twitter clips."
Yeah, I've definitely had some DCs where it loads me into a game and the screen just never turns away from black. It's just black, and then my teammates are playing the game and they're like, "Hey, you're still standing on the coffee machine. What are you doing?"
I have not personally had that one happen. That sounds absolutely wild. I've definitely seen a lot of zones specifically, like zones Hagglefish. I've seen some weird DCs on zones Hagglefish for some reason. It's always just like zones Hagglefish is where you see the like 2 or 3 people just disappear from mid in the middle of their specials map, in my experience. And now Inkblot Tower is up there. But before that, I, for some reason, always run into it on Haggle zones in solo queue.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like when you look at all of the maps and modes that are played in competitive, half of them are Hagglefish splat zones and the other half are Inkblot TC.
No. Sometimes we get some Makomart if we want some real variety.
That's true.
I would love to see maps like Scorch and Mahi come out more, but we won't really be seeing those too much in this league. They're not really in the map pool. I think Scorch might be out of memory, but I know Mahi isn't, because most people don't like Mahi that much, which is fair, I guess.
You're on the Mahi boat?
I am on the Mahi boat. I think Mahi Clams is an incredible map. I think it is very fun.
I like it.
And I think you can get some really interesting opportunities on it. I think, for example, Inkjet would be a great special on it, and I would be interested in seeing how Ballpoint does on it.
Yeah, I've been loving Rapid Deco on it. I'm a big Mahi Clams fan. I wish the spawn was a little bit closer to the basket.
A little better. Yeah.
Yeah, but
it's
goodness.
I just think it's more interesting.
Now's the time, guys. We're gonna get it this time.
This time for sure we're gonna get a full game. 5th time's the charm. Usually we go with 3rd, but this time we're going with 5th time's the charm. Or is it 4th? I've lost count.
This is number 4. We're gonna be going with number 4. Lucky number 4. Right?
Lucky
That's
number
what they
4.
Say.
It is. I'm pretty sure 4 is a lucky number in some culture. I don't remember which, but I'm pretty sure it is. I could be horrifically wrong. I know it's also a bad omen in some cultures. Most numbers are a bad omen in some and a good omen in others. That's kind of just
death in Japanese, so it's a good omen. I mean, a bad omen.
Yeah, well, hopefully the number 4 decides to be nice to us this time, because it sure is.
Yeah, I mean, there's four players on each team. There's
yeah. It's a good number.
There's
sometimes.
4 fingers on each Inkling's hand.
That's true.
I think.
Tetra Dualies can roll 4 times.
Oh,
Blobs
that's
shoot
true.
out 4 bubbles. You know.
Whoa.
There's a lot of 4s in Splatoon. And we should be getting into the match here very shortly. just an adventure we're having today, everybody. Always important to have a fun little adventure. What's Splatoon without some interesting shenanigan happening during the stream, really?
All right. Let's see what we've got this time. We are going to be hopping in yet again with the same rosters, same weapons. It's Groundhog Day all over again. Where is everyone? You know, I feel like you could have gone back to the drawing board in like the time that is between matches where like, no, I opened this way last time. Yeah, like Jay has everyone is open differently every single time. And now Crush Soda has opened early. Thunder coming out with the early crab tank, surviving the triple ink strike. That's going to give Crush Soda an early opening. The ballpoint is going to slow things down, but not quite enough probably to stop Crush Soda from pressuring this checkpoint.
They definitely put pressure on it, but I don't believe they managed to break it. Yeah, not quite. They only made it about... They barely tapped it, to be honest. And we are now seeing Zero Deaths taking advantage of the fact that they have that extra range from the ballpoint to start moving up, claiming space pretty quickly, taking advantage of how many picks they've managed to get. Kyo going down as we are seeing Storm riding that tower, Booyah Bomb coming out. Admittedly, the triple strikes are coming out, but they managed to break that first checkpoint. Not the hardest checkpoint to break, but a critical one to get still. And they are still trying to keep this push going as Storm is trying to fend off Goss with that machine, but not quite able to.
Goss with a nice flank, managing to pinch members of Zero Deaths. Now they're going to look to go on the aggressive and move up into the enemy's plat. It's a little bit too painted orange for them to get up in this situation, as all 4 members of Zero Deaths are sitting there waiting for Crush Soda's arrival. The specials come flying. Both teams just opt to stall in this situation, but it looks like Kyo on the flank is going to manage to find 2, and that could be huge for Crush Soda as they take this first checkpoint.
Yeah, they also managed to take out the last 2 members there. That is a delayed wipe onto Zero Deaths, as Crush Soda is now really moving up and taking as much space as they can. Really something you'd expect to see out of this double machine splash comp. It's a very aggressive comp that can hold really aggressive positions. We are seeing those triple strikes continuously coming out, really doing a great job of holding everybody off, and they are doing Crush Soda is doing an incredible job of staggering their specials to ensure Zero Deaths can't get in.
Oh my goodness, and now a full wipe from Crush Soda. That's going to allow them to push into the final checkpoint. Neither team wants to push up too aggressively. This is already a huge push on Inkblot, and it looks like Crush Soda is just going to opt to hold it as long as they can. No need to force it in this situation. They're just going to try and keep this push going as long as they can, trying to run it down, run the clock all the way down to 2 minutes or even beyond. It's going to be very difficult for Zero Deaths to get out of this situation.
Yeah, I don't really see how their path out happens here without some very lucky picks. Because with the positions Crush Soda are in, they're just so solid. They're so defensive while still being able to apply so much pressure. And that is another 2 down. That's another 3. And it's just that Neo Splash left up, who's getting close to Ink Strike, but not going to be able to have it in time. And that is going to be game 1, finally going to Crush Soda.
Woohoo!
We got through a game without a DC. We did it. We did it, y'all.
We survived, but I don't know if Zero Deaths did. They got knocked out pretty hardly in that game. As soon as they lost the middle of the map, they had such a hard time getting in. I'm not sure whether they've felt a little bit flustered by all the DCs and all the icing that's been going on throughout this set so far. But it definitely looked they were unprepared for all Crush Soda threw at them. Basically, as soon as Crush Soda got aggressive, it felt like Zero Deaths just did not know how to get out of their spawn. It felt like they dropped, and there was a player waiting at every single turn.
Yeah, I think there was definitely an element of that, but I think there's also the element of that map is a map that we have continuously seen lockouts on for as long as we've seen the map, really. It is a map that if you can get to that second checkpoint, it is nearly impossible for the enemy team to break out. It is just a hard map to get through. And I definitely think Zero Death's opening push was really solid, and I'm interested in seeing if they can do better on Sturgeon. Although Sturgeon can have very similar issues if you are not the one getting that really strong push. It is a hard map to get back to tower with if you do get pushed back really far.
Yeah, it certainly is a map that can be difficult, but I think this is a map where it is very valuable to have a backline. I think having someone like a ballpoint who can actually utilize the snipe, basically sitting on high ground, able to reach mid. The other weapons like Machine can reach it with Fizzy, but it's not really as lethal as a ballpoint, which has that laser precision. I think that's something that could lean into Zero Death's benefit on this stage, while Crush Soda just looks to keep up the aggression.
Yeah, I mean, we know what Crush Soda wants to do. They want to use Kyo to break in. They want Wave to ride the tower, and they want Goss and Thunder to be in there playing cleanup, playing those really aggressive plays off of Kyo. But it'll be really interesting to see how Zero Deaths is able to move in here. And they are sticking with that they are switching out one of their machines for a splash. We are seeing double splash machine ballpoint. I think the ballpoint does add a lot there. And we are seeing the exact same comp coming out of Crush Soda here, to nobody's surprise.
Yeah, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Machine just so good at sweeping around corners, playing aggressively, perfect for tower control, not perfect for running straight at enemies. Crush Soda gets taken out pretty early here as Zero Deaths looks to find an opening at the start here. The ballpoint range already paying off in dividend as Storm tries to help Toyoben move forward towards the enemy snipe. And now it's going to be up to the rest of the team to push forward in this instance while Zero Deaths holds that first checkpoint.
Yeah, we saw how much of a difference having that extra range can make, and we are seeing the really nice part of Ballpoint here, of the fact that now the Inkjet is a very functional special. You can really move up with it, really do a lot of damage, and then get to your safe landing spot that puts you back in a position you want to be in as a backline, and should be able to get some jumps back in, but not quite, as Thunder does manage to chase them down in time.
Yeah, and Phoenix, being a thorn in Crush Soda's side, they were looking everywhere for him, and they were unable to find him. Able to get a trade out of that situation, lets Zero Deaths hang on in mid here, but the Fizzy Bombs just causing so much chaos. Zero Deaths unable to stay there during that situation, while Kyo looks aggressively on that flank for picks. They're able to find one, and this could be massive. Crush Soda moving up, Thunder trying to get into that top right, not quite at a crab tank, but they are looking to get up there, pop that special, and hold that ground as long as they can. But it's not without any contention, as the ballpoint is there to watch, but the Booyah Bomb is there to answer.
Yeah, and we are seeing Crush Soda being able to take the lead here. They have that crab tank exactly where they want it. Kyo able to move up easily because of it. Going to be able to take advantage of that crab tank's chip damage that does go down in the process. They are at that final checkpoint, but they do have 2 members down. So right now, Zero Deaths is going to try and rush in, and they're going to want to focus on painting mid here, because as long as they can get mid painted before Crush Soda can get back in, it offers them a lot more space to work with. It offers them specials, and it prevents Crush Soda from being able to rush them quite as easily, which with a player like Kyo, you need to make sure they can't do.
Oh, and here comes Kyo over on that left side, surprising members of Zero Deaths on the flank, able to get a pick out of that situation. Finds himself in a bit of an awkward spot now, but they are going to manage to stay alive in this situation. That allows Crush Soda to get back towards the middle of the map, but they're forced to jump out as they run out of paint. Now, there is a lot of points in between the two, but there's no checkpoint, so this could be gone in as little as a single crab tank, which it looks like they're going to opt to pop here as soon as they have the opportunity. Jay comes out with a crab tank. The machine is anticipating it, but they're unable to take advantage of it. All the specials are coming out. The tower rolls into that last checkpoint, and it's going to be taken down to 25. Not quite the lead yet. They just need to tap it. They don't have the opportunity to get on the tower. They finally do. They touch it and live out of the situation, managing to pull out that 1-point lead. Well, it's 3-point lead without getting wiped, which is absolutely massive.
Yeah, it is. And also, we still have Toyoben up there, sharking, waiting for the opportunity to do something, finally jumping out there. But we definitely really saw the advantage of having something like a ballpoint on those grates, where you can just apply that steady pressure for so long and really just be such a thorn in their side. And also, them being able to break through that checkpoint does put them in a much more comfortable position. It is a smaller point lead than what we saw earlier, but having that checkpoint broken makes them so much more comfortable. Because at this point, Crush Soda has an entire checkpoint where they can use specials, and now they're being able to set up another push already.
Oh my god. They're like... They're all standing on top of each other and just like popping all of their specials, assembling like Voltron, Power Rangers. I don't even know what they're doing. They just stand on top mid, pop all of their specials, and then it's almost impossible for Crush Soda to get back in. But they unfortunately overextend, and that could be their downfall here, as this is a relatively small map. As if a crab can get really far ahead into your base, it's hard to deal with them. We're rolling up on 55 seconds left here, and Crush Soda looking to take back the lead that was stolen from them.
They definitely are, and we are seeing that crab tank coming out. They have a Booyah Bomb at the ready. Trip Strikes coming out here, though, from Zero Deaths, applying a ton of pressure. They were able to take out 2 there. One of them being able to touch tower. Toyoben getting a huge pick there. It is just that last machine up in mid. They are managing to survive that Booyah Bomb. And right now, if you are Crush Soda, you feel very on the back foot. You don't feel in your element, especially with how aggressive Zero Deaths has been playing this map. They've been using their specials to get themselves in so nicely. And right now, they're probably just looking for that Neo Splash to be able to get those Trip Strikes, but they're not going to be able to. We only have a crab tank online, and they are going to be forced to jump out as those machines move up.
Yeah, Jay was looking very, realizing the importance of that crab tank for stopping this tower, but the tower has no checkpoints in between. It's going to take a really fast push for Zero Deaths to take it back. The ballpoint trying to push the tower. The triple ink strikes come out. They have a few more points to go. It's 2v2 in that situation, and Zero Deaths manages to sneak behind, grab that tower from right under Crush Soda's nose, and tie up the set at 4-4, right? That's the score.
Yeah. 4-4, that's definitely it. It couldn't be 1-1. Wonderful to get through another game without a DC there. An incredible gameplay there out of Zero Deaths, recovering from that first really strong push out of Crush Soda and being able to use their sensibilities to be able to break through that checkpoint. Because they almost didn't. They almost abandoned that push. Not even necessarily abandoned it. They almost just didn't get on the tower in time to get that checkpoint earlier on, which was a scary moment.
Yeah, and the real crucial play of that game was Jay recognizing the importance of their crab tank. You saw from like 20 seconds left while their team was going down, they managed to stay alive in this situation, grab their crab tank, and that was what enabled their team to get back in. When I believe Goss popped the crab tank for Crush Soda, it was unstoppable if not for that special on Zero Death's side. With the added fire from their teammates, they're able to win the fight and get back to the tower in the nick of time.
Yeah, it's always so important to make sure you have those end of game specials in tower control. Without them, you can just be in such awkward situations. When their Neo Splash went down and wasn't close to special, I was a bit worried, to be honest. You typically do want to make sure you have a Trip Strike or a Booyah Bomb, especially if you have those in your comp ready to go. And admittedly, a crab tank is also great for it, mostly because in that case, it allowed them to deal with the other crab tank, allowed them to create openings for their teammates to move in. Not as much of a tower denier as it is an opportunity for teammates to go in and win their actual fights.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being able to stay alive and both give your teams jumps in as well as save your own special. Almost every special can at least affect almost every other special. So just having one in your back pocket, especially when your back's against the wall and time is ticking, is extremely valuable. And now Kyo is just going to put the pedal to the metal, grab that wiper, and run directly at Zero Deaths on tower control on Mako. Winner of this will take set 1.
Yeah, I love seeing that Viper coming out from Kyo. I think it's a great pick for this map. It's a map where weapons like Viper and Carbon do incredibly well, and we do immediately see Kyo go down with it. But that's kind of what we expect out of Vipers. We see a machine fall off the map. Just a massacre out here right now.
Yeah, I don't know if you still respawn faster if you fall off the map, but funny either way. Crush Soda still managing to make the best out of that. You see Goss already back, Goss and Thunder already back in this map here after the early downfall there and trying to get this first checkpoint, but it looks like they're going to have trouble getting it unless they can clear out this plat. And it looks like exactly what they seem to be doing here.
Yeah, it seems like Kyo was able to draw a lot of attention over to that right side. Not really where you want to be looking right now if you're Zero Deaths, but you also don't want to get flanked by Kyo's Viper. Hard to deal with when that happens. We are seeing a bunch of specials coming out here from Zero Deaths. Not going to seem to be enough to really do anything for them, though, as all 4 members of Crush Soda are still up, still being able to move forward. That is a 2v2 situation now, as we are seeing Zero Deaths being able to start moving that tower. Really aggressive gameplay here out of Storm, but Ballpoint is a weapon that can get away with it. The advantage to things like Ballpoint, to Splatlings like Ballpoint, is that they can move up so much more aggressively than other anchors like Charger.
Oh, Kyo's eyeing it, and Kyo manages to find the kill on the jump. It's sitting there waiting, Kyo taking it off angle, managing to get that pick. Now they find themselves in a 3v2 situation, managing to come out on top, and it looks like Crush Soda is going to get an extra jump to boot out of that situation. But somehow, despite all of that, Crush Soda finds themselves a couple members down and unable to make too much of this situation. They're stabilizing in mid though, which is absolutely massive for them. There's already a massive lead for them. And Zero Deaths, despite having a solid defense, has yet to get anything on the board.
Yeah, Zero Deaths have been able to hang in there so far, but they have not been able to find any of the opportunities they necessarily want. That was a great pinch coming out, but once again, they're still a member down. They're really not in the situation they want to be in. They don't really have the specials they want. They're just not finding their way in right now as much as they could last game. But then again, we saw Crush Soda get a huge opening push off last game, and Zero Deaths managed to take the game anyway. They're definitely not out yet. They are just not in the situation they want to be in.
Yeah, I mean, once you take out several members on one team, or especially Crush Soda, they're going to be back
There they
instantly. So you need to kill them all at once if you want to make any progress. 3 down. The last one manages to, I think, jump out just in the nick of time. So that means that Zero Deaths are going to have an opportunity to push. They have a crab tank to lead their way in. Not quite enough to take the tower to the lead just yet. They're going to need to find some extra picks if they're going to be able to do that. But they've passed the most important hurdle, which is that first checkpoint. 3 down, and now that's a wipeout on the other side. Crush Soda bouncing back very solidly, and they're going to look to extend their lead here.
Yeah, Zero Deaths did a great job there of making sure they got through that checkpoint. They maybe could have considered backing off a little sooner, but it wasn't quite the move to them. It's not really something they tend to consider doing too much, generally, from what I understand. We are seeing them having to try and survive their splash, the Neo Splash not quite being able to in that very awkward situation, as 2 members are down for Zero Deaths, and we are seeing Kyo being able to get a huge pick with that hammer, and really just... Zero Deaths is struggling to get in right now, especially with Kyo kind of just forcing them to go before they want to.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, Crush Soda has looked very difficult to defeat on this side of the map. The tower rolling into the final checkpoint, but only 2 members alive. Jay is going to manage to stay alive, get a pick, not quite enough to take them out. Thunder is going to roll the tower in, not quite enough. Phoenix alive. Kyo has the hammer on the tower though, and gonna give the seal of approval to that first set. Crush Soda is going to take set 1.
Yes, Crush Soda taking set 1, doing an excellent job there of just making sure to play to their strengths and not get flustered after they dropped a game.
Right. We're going to toss it back over to the analysts as they're going to talk about what we just saw and what we can expect to see going into set 2. Take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Fusion and Nox, and kind of a lot to unpack during that set. Some things that we weren't really expecting to see. K-Bot,
we finished the set.
You're pumping your fist. What are you excited about?
We did it. We completed 3 games of Splatoon. It's remarkable.
3 games of Splatoon after, I don't know, 7 attempts total. But hey, we did get it in. Thank you all for sticking around to see the exciting end of that set. I mean, 9, it kind of started off, I think, with the first 2 games in particular, where Crush Soda just seemed to feed in a little bit, but always found a way to come back.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's a coincidence that the 2 games that they ended up winning are on the maps that you would pencil in as Crush Soda types of games. Not that you can ever really neutralize Storm, and K-Bot and I have plenty to talk about Storm's incredible play over that, but if there was ever a map where you would get to trade off fights, cycle through, and then take full advantage of your double slosh machine, it was going to be something like an Inkblot and something like a Makomart as well. And it really started at the very beginning of this game, K-Bot. Once that initial defense failed for them, it really was, I would argue, almost a full 2-minute push there that was really heading only one direction.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The second that Crush Soda can start to pick up that pace a little bit more, can start to pick their opponents off one by one. And again, at this point, it's all about taking those slight little optimizations, right? Anytime that an opponent jumps in a little bit too far, all of the sudden you're going to see these cases where all of these things are going to fall apart, right? If there's one member of your team that starts getting a little too ahead of themselves, a little too antsy, and you can't fully clean things up on the defensive side, then all of a sudden, the team like Crush Soda is going to be able to punish on top of that, especially with this fast play style, and on cases where they have double machine, it's going to make that much easier to do.
Yeah, and K-Bot, you were talking about fast-paced play style and just kind of everything that's involved. But remember, this is attempt, again, number 4 at the start. These teams are pretty fatigued at this point, so maybe even some tricks, I'll say tricks that they had up their sleeves might have been revealed already. So there's always that thought process of, okay, what do we need to adjust? What do we need to change? And that just makes it tricky.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, right, we're going to a completely different mode for the next set. We're heading over now to Rainmaker, right, which, frankly, is probably even more Crush Soda favored. You think of the Rainmaker as your explosive mode. The second that you can continue to keep up that pressure and act incredibly quickly is the moment where you're going to be able to really rack up all of those points on the board for Rainmaker. So this one might be looking a little bit more towards Crush Soda, but again, Zero Deaths I want to see them play even more passively than they were. We were talking a little bit, Nine alluded to Storm playing incredibly well. He's still doing it. And no matter whether or not he's in the Inkjet form or the ballpoint form, he's going to be able to have quite a bit of presence at a longer range. If they can utilize that to their advantage and try to team up and work on cross-firing with the splashes in certain instances, maybe Zero Deaths will have the opportunity to turn this around, especially given we're in a new set. We can forget about all that DC nonsense. We got through 3 games of Splatoon. Let's try to refocus here and bring this back together.
Yeah, and Nine, we're going to hope in that doesn't happen again. And I know a lot of our production crew has been putting a lot of things to work behind the scenes to make sure that happens. But comparing tower control to Rainmaker, a very different pace of play too. So how well do you think that Zero Deaths are going to be able to adapt? What did they learn from this first set that they can bring over to the second set?
Well, they learned that Crab Tank and Slosher Machine are very difficult to fight against consistently, and that there's very little room for error. That's what they learned. And what I hope that they have up their sleeve for this set, to be a little less, of a smart aleck about answering your question, is that they understand now that they are getting into, as K-Bot noted earlier, a mode that fits what Crush Soda wants to do, and it comes in the form of Kyo being able to go over to the Tri-Slosher Nouveau. It's not a guaranteed pick here, but the Tri-Slosher Nouveau saw so much, I don't have the number in front of me right now, but an incredibly high amount of play in Rainmaker, because it's a great weapon with a great sub, and if there was ever a time to bring in Tacticooler, it would be here on Rainmaker. So they do have Toya Ben, who it also uses an NZAP. I know it wasn't the most picked weapon, but an NZAP 85, so they could maybe try to keep pace in that respect as well. But K-Bot kind of noted here, if you felt like you were getting the worst out in some of those fights last time, it is gut check time for you. You might consider maybe bringing out some sort of, you could even go with maybe a double splash comp to simply try to get a little bit of burst damage out with the burst bombs to slow down the aggressor as they're moving through. But you're going to have to figure that answer very quick, because again, it is only a best of 3.
And with that, we are going to toss it back to our casters for the set, as these players are now getting ready. Once again, Zero Deaths, Crush Soda leading their match 1-0. We will be tossing it back to Fusion and Nox.
Welcome back, everybody. We're getting into set 2, which is going to be Rainmaker. We're going to be seeing Crush Soda and Zero Deaths fight it out yet again. We're going to be seeing our first match on Undertow. How are you feeling about this set? How are you feeling about this stage? Do you think that these teams, the dynamic is going to change at all, Nox?
I don't think the dynamic will change too much. I think if Isabel was in, I would even more so love to see Zero Deaths on this mode. I think if they had that Wiper, that Tetra kind of role coming in, I think it would allow them to keep up with Crush Soda a little better. Because there are definitely times where it seems like they have a hard time breaking back in. They can't find that one little pick that they need. And that's what that Wiper type role is so good at. And we just don't quite have that from them right now. And so they need to adapt. And like the analysts are saying, maybe playing a little slower would help them with that. Because they're still playing like they have that super aggressive option. And they just don't quite have it.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, I think with Rainmaker, a game of hot and cold. You need to just play slow when you need to. You need to play very aggressive and very quick. And I think that Zero Deaths is certainly capable of doing that.
Mm-hmm. Zero Deaths definitely is, like, I'm pretty sure this has been mentioned, but both teams were going to ban Splat Zones today. Both of these teams want to play these really fast play styles. They want to play for explosive pushes. They don't want to have to play patient. They don't want to have to stall. And you still have to do that in other modes, but not to the degree you do in zones.
I hope that's missed. It's not missed. Oh, darn. I was a little bit hoping it was missed.
The 2 missed levers on Mike, and we don't even get to have it. Devastating.
Yeah, but either way, both the Tri-Sloshers, just demonic weapons designed for Rainmaker. Both of them with outstanding kits here. And oh my goodness, that was disgusting. The ballpoint sniping that crab's head before they're able to do any damage. Already, look at the speed with which Zero Death is moving up into mid. The Rainmaker's rolling in towards that first checkpoint. Joe on the flank. They're going to be able to find that crab, but the Rainmaker's gonna not quite be able to dunk it. Oh, just barely. Crush Soda able to stop it in time, but good awareness from Zero Deaths to get on their feet that quickly.
Yeah, Zero Death's definitely showing, hey, we don't really want to play slower. We're just going to make faster work for us, essentially. And we are seeing Gaz and Kyo trying to move up here, trying to really punish them for getting that wipe out. And we are seeing Storm trying to set up in a way to prevent that Rainmaker from moving forward. Something that Inkjet is incredibly good at doing. Not something that we've seen as much in recent times, but it's something that we saw a decent bit of at points in Splatoon 2. Inkjet is really good at shutting down Rainmaker pushes, as it's just Q up here trying to do something. Doing a great job being a distraction there, which is a lot of what Viper's job is.
Yeah, absolutely. Trying to get aggressive, but it seems like Zero Deaths might have found an answer, as they seem kind of be playing more of like off angles, taking out the Rainmaker. You can't move forward if someone's just always tailing the Rainmaker and stopping them in their tracks. Maybe the ultra aggressive strategy is not what's going to work best for them in this situation. Storm finds a pick, but Inkjet's going to recall. They actually managed to find a second one, and now the Crab's going to have plenty of space to clear out mid, and it looks like they're going to go for that right checkpoint for an easy dunk. And that's going to open the door so they can push either way now, just to get points on the board without anything to stop them.
Yeah, Zero Death's just doing an incredible job here of keeping up constant aggression while still making sure they always have people up to jump into. Aside from that big opening push that they've managed to try, they have always made sure to keep someone up, and we see Storm still being up right now, allowing their teammates to have an easier path back in, as we are seeing Crush Soda starting to try and make their first push, probably going to be able to get this checkpoint, but not quite.
Yeah, really good idea with the Booyah Bomb, clearing the space so that they're able to dunk it on the right side. Now it's a tied ball game. Kyo with that hammer is going to grab it, try and get those extra points on the board. They do. They're going to get it all the way into the 30s to 29. Huge push on that left side, managing to get that far. It's not even that easy to get it pushing the other direction. So Zero Deaths does have some work cut out for them with about half the game remaining. Soda's not going to, or is going to enable Zero Deaths to push in a little bit safer here. They're going to guard that Rainmaker, and this map, despite being relatively even, quote unquote, is extremely orange.
Yes, this map is definitely very orange right now, but we are seeing the splash go down there with that crab. We are seeing Zero Deaths just trying to find paths in. They do need to make a big push here. They need to, if they are pushing through the typical path people take, make it all the way through. Not all the way through on Inkblot, but all the way to it and a bit through it out of memory. And this is an awkward position to be in. They do have plenty of time, and they are starting to be able to move forward, taking advantage of that tactic lure and the extra mobility it allows them. But their ballpoint has gone down to that machine, and they just don't quite have what they need as their players just keep falling.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Huge angle coming out from Jay, getting 2 picks, chasing a member back all the way onto that left side. Now they have a crab that's going to enable them to survive. Now Zero Death is going to be able to start a push of their own. They grab that Rainmaker. The crab is keeping members of Crush Soda back into that top left. They just need to run it to the corner to get that lead. They're not able to find it. They do have an opportunity for a pop, but with only 2 members, I don't think they're going to be able to get it. Goss doing a good job playing puppy guarding the Rainmaker in this situation, clearing it out. Just barely hanging on to that lead for Zero Deaths, or for Crush Soda rather.
Yeah, Crush Soda did an excellent job there regrouping, playing their defense. Their machine made a great choice of not just immediately dropping down. If they had just immediately dropped down there, they probably would have been eaten alive by that splash and that Rainmaker player. But because they were up there on those grates, there wasn't a ton of answers Zero Deaths had to that. They don't have a comp besides those fizzy bombs that really has a ton of answers to that. And admittedly, they do have 3 of those fizzy bombs, but you know.
Yeah, and now that they're playing so defensively, Crush Soda's playing defensively, they're managing to wipe out Zero Deaths, perhaps just rushing in a bit aggressively. Time is running out for them, but they can't afford to all go in on their own. They're going to need to find a coordinated push to take out this Rainmaker in the corner. Kyo looking to play an aggressive defense over on this left side, eyeing up Jay in the crab tank, not able to find it, but the Rainmaker is content just to sit there over in the corner till the time expires. Jay, without a special, now has no option. They're going to have to run for the Rainmaker as time ticks down, and I don't think they're going to be able to do it, Nox. They're going to be stuck in this corner.
The Fizzies do manage to take out the Rainmaker, but they need to push all the way to the other side of the map, and that is a tall, tall order. Even with that tactical lure coming out, it does allow them that extra mobility, but they're just not going to be able to survive for too long if Crush Soda keeps rushing at them like this. Crush Soda just needs to get those couple lucky picks, and they have the entire length of the map to do it, along with Zero Deaths being on a timer. It's not game necessarily, but it is about as close to game as you can get without it being there.
Well, 2 down are now on Crush Soda, but before that even becomes an opportunity for Zero Deaths to take a bat, Crush Soda stops it. Crush Soda manages to take out that Rainmaker with some well-placed bombs, I believe. And they're going to be taking game 1 of this second set. And now it's game point, or match point, rather.
It is match point out here. But there is a decent chance that Zero Deaths can turn this around. It seems like Hagglefish might be a map mode that could be more comfortable for them with more of those flanks that are easier to notice maybe than Undertow. Undertow definitely, they put up a good fight. It is by no means unwinnable. They just need to play a little more carefully on defense. And part of that was them just losing track of Kyo on that one push that they managed to get to 29 on. It's Rainmaker. You lose track of the Rainmaker for a second and that's the game.
Yeah, I mean, with that checkpoint on the right side being so close to the middle of the map, they kind of had an opportunity to just dunk it. That Booyah Bomb basically guaranteed Crush Soda that checkpoint. They're able to take it, and I think that Zero Deaths may have kind of overextended trying to stop that push to the checkpoint. The Booyah Bomb, I think, caught someone off guard, which meant that Kyo had the space and the player advantage to get that push all the way as far as it did.
And by no means did Zero Deaths necessarily play badly there. They just messed up one thing. At this level of play, you mess up that one thing, and that is the game. It is a matter of finding those little opportunities, those little mistakes, and just fully capitalizing on them to be able to punish the other team.
Well, here we go. We're going to be seeing Phoenix on the machine for Zero Deaths. We're going to be seeing Kyo on that wiper yet again. You know, the analysts were talking about Kyo on a tri-slosher, but Kyo on the wiper is certainly getting a lot of work done. We just see the aggressive play, the constant flanks. Kyo's already on the flank. They're going all the way into the spawn on the left side, if you can see that. And Crush Soda's cleaning up mid behind them, able to get a nice pick. Now it's an even situation as the specials begin to fly.
Yeah, we are just seeing those specials coming out early like we're used to seeing throughout Splatoon. Kyo does go down. They're not able to get a pick first, so we'll be able to respawn pretty quickly as it is a 3v3 situation yet again. We are seeing the machine here trying to take advantage of the fact that they work so well around those corners, but entering into an almost 2v1 situation, getting saved there by Storm's Inkjet, allowing Phoenix to live just that little bit longer.
Gosh, the team up, managing to take out that the Booyah Bomb there. Kyo trying to push up aggressively, manages to get a kill, but not a clean kill. It's going to be Zero Deaths grabbing the Rainmaker, trying to make it to the checkpoint, and managing to get in through the Crab Tank shots. Quite impressive, but that's going to be the end of this push. This is yet another small map, so Crush Soda is going to be on the rebound, taking that Rainmaker back to the checkpoint. Zero Deaths needs to make sure they don't get wiped in this situation. Just need to stay alive, take good trades, not go too all in. This first checkpoint is already theirs. They don't need to fight for their life for it. But it looks like they're going to be able to stop Wave before he gets there.
Yeah, really great job there. Really good use of specials, along with making sure that they were using their sub-weapons really efficiently to shut things down. Kyo going in for the pick, not quite able to get it this time. Does get punished and called out for it. But running QR on that wiper, really no consequences. Already back up, already working on getting back in. Down Kyo goes again. That's typically what you see with Vipers. This is what Zero Deaths would be doing if Isabel was in. Isabel doing a very similar job to what Kyo currently does on those Tetra and Vipers. As we are seeing Zero Deaths starting to be able to make another push here. They are going to be able to take out that splash, but not without a trade happening. And a lot of great shots coming out from this Rainmaker to really keep this pressure up, to allow them to start trying to move forward. And it seems like they're going to go for the jump, and they make it, getting all the way to 28.
Yeah, that would have been the lead in the last game. But unfortunately, it's not the last game anymore. But either way, that jump is a huge push. They got the jump and some change. Zero Deaths looking a lot more clean in this game. Like you said, a more kind of narrow Rainmaker map, maybe playing towards their advantage. As Thunder gets a nice pick, able to clean up. They're going to look to try and get this Rainmaker going towards the first checkpoint. They still have a while to go. They don't need just the checkpoint. They need the jump and some extra points on the board. They're going to need probably 3 or 4 picks if they're going to look to do that.
Yeah, they definitely are going to look for a lot of very solid picks here. Both splashes still up. One of them does go down. We do have the ball point on respawn, though. Should allow them to be able to play a little safer, a little more... Should allow Zero Deaths to be able to keep themselves a little safer, though. As I say that, the ball point goes down, and this is an awkward situation to be in, because if they make one wrong move, Crush Soda can easily take the lead. This is not a hard map to take a lead of 28 from. It's always great to get that jump, but you are never safe. Yeah,
it's certainly a very dangerous situation. You can see Zero Deaths playing they're they're kind of just like hunkering down over on their canopy, just trying to stay alive. They know all they need to do is kind of play back and play defensive in this situation. But now with 2 down, Jay backing up with that crab tank, Storm trying to fight for their life there. They do manage to go down. Wave looking at the checkpoint on the left, the crab's going to discourage them, and managing to find a pick on the Rainmaker. We've been seeing consistently when Zero Deaths is succeeding, it's because they managed to get behind the aggressive players of Crush Soda. They managed to get a pick that they weren't expecting and basically counter their aggression. But now it's just Storm on the ballpoint trying to stop the Rainmaker, and this is a huge opportunity for Crush Soda.
It absolutely is. This is an insane opportunity for them. They can absolutely make something huge happen here, and Zero Deaths has to make sure not to panic in this situation, or else they will easily lose this. We are seeing Crush Soda looking to start moving forward here with this Rainmaker. Bombs are coming out, but there are just 2 players up for Zero Deaths, and that is another player falling. They are looking to start moving forward. That Booyah Bomb coming out. I believe that was Inkjet coming out, but not enough to do anything, as we are just seeing them being able to take this lead, and that is probably going to be the match, but not quite yet.
Oh,
well.
I couldn't think of anything more fitting.
So there is a chance now that Zero Deaths can win this with 20 seconds left. I don't believe there will be a replay. Typically, I can't think of a tournament with replay rules that would allow a replay of this game. It will be still very hard for Zero Deaths to win it, even with the DC. It is still in a hard position to get in through, especially with those double crab tanks. They have their Rainmaker goes down, seemingly having overextended. That is everyone but just one splash. They need to get Rainmaker pop. They don't. That is the match. That is the match to Crush Soda. That is the set.
That is the set. That is a set. You bet.
I'm really interested in seeing how Zero Deaths does next week when they have Isabel. I think that does make a huge difference for them not having to play with a sub. I think we got a lot from their team interview of just understanding that they like playing off of each other, and you just can't do that as well in these kinds of situations.
Well, Zero Deaths certainly proved they could somewhat keep up with Crush Soda. Perhaps with Isabel, they may have been able to have an opportunity. Nonetheless, they have several weeks ahead of them in the league. They have an opportunity to make it into playoffs still, but it's going to be difficult. Crush Soda definitely looking a lot cleaner than they did in the qualifier. Just, I think they had been anticipated as like, oh, they're an easy shoe-in, and they certainly did not have the easiest time in the world, but perhaps a return to form for them here, able to look really strong on both tower control and Rainmaker. And yeah, that was the set of all time.
It was the set for sure. And we are going to be tossing it back to our analysts. Thank y'all for letting us thank y'all for listening to us today, and hopefully the next set will go a little smoother.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you so much, Nox and Fusion. Hey, okay, we technically did have a DC in that game. 9, it was a little hard to see, but can you tell us what happened?
Goss dunked the Rainmaker and paid the ultimate price. That's not even getting splatted. You just got removed from the universe there with how that happened, snapped out of existence. And my heart bleeds out for our wonderful commentators there, Nox and Fusion, as I watched both of your faces and the wry smile that simply could not be removed. At a certain point, the biggest of kudos to you for fighting through that as far as you could. And I got nothing more. I never want to see another 9-game best of 3 in my life. That's all I'll say.
It was kind of a lot. So once again, on paper, and I guess, in actuality of what we saw, we did see that Crush Soda did win this set 2-0. Now, K-Bot, we're going to go back to this first game here, where Zero Deaths, they actually seem to do a really good job getting some of these picks and did a good job pushing the objective and had some map control, but what went wrong in this situation?
I think the reality is this team does not have their identity yet. Right. And it's something that we kind of alluded to a little bit on the pre-show, right? This team hasn't been playing together too much. They don't really know each other's play styles. Now, one of their main, signature things they do is that they have Isabel run around on the Tetra or a Splatana Wiper, right? And that wasn't here in this set. Isabel couldn't make it. Phoenix has to come in, and play with Jay on that qualifying roster for this team. And at the end of the day, 1 week is not enough to solidify it. If there's anybody that knows that 1 week is not enough to solidify a roster, trust me, I think it's me with my coaching role at Seafoam, but I digress. At the end of the day, right, we're talking about this Zero Deaths team that just has got to play a little bit more passively, and they didn't, right? If they could try to capitalize on slight overextensions from Crush Soda, when Crush, the rare cases where Crush Soda might give them to them, they might have been able to come away with this, but it seemed at some cases they were panicked, and that can be for a variety of factors, right? Including the fact that all of the, disconnection shenanigans happened during this match. So I am still incredibly excited. And look, we saw a lot of promise out of them, right? And a lot of games ended up coming away with early victories. But when push came to shove there towards the very end, they collapsed under a little bit more pressure.
Yeah, and 9. I mean, we're looking at the first set of this match that we have ending on tower control here, where it looks like in this stage, this is where Crush Soda was getting very, very close and not able to pull it off as the other team won, as Zero Deaths did end up winning that match. And then moving on to game 2 here on tower control, Makomart, still kind of a similar situation, but it looks like Crush Soda seemed to really pull it off.
Yeah, Crush Soda, K-Bot brought out a great point there of knowing what your kind of identity is here. And that may sound a little sensationalist to y'all, but I want you to kind of understand that one of the reasons why a double Splash-O-Matic comp, and I mean traditional Splash-O-Matic, not the Neo, works so often is because you have such great margin for error, where if somebody jumps off the tower and goes to attack, you can put a crab on the tower to assist that person who is playing ahead of the tower, and you have almost guaranteed safe jumps in to get your machine back in, to get your wiper back in. And that's really why you saw this extend as far as it did. It's because they were able to create big, long pushes. And there were some explosive plays made by Storm, as you just saw there. We joked in our little analyst chat, man, that 50 hitbox goes really, really far. But eventually, as K-Bot noted, if you do get a little overzealous in a fight, you know that your opponent has a luxury of being able to, again, crab to attack from distance, move people in, activate the quick respawn, and you go for flanks. You try to break things down from that respect, throw some sort of a wrench in the machine. But when the machine is geared up like the members of Crush Soda are, they're simply not going to mess up too many times when they can force the fights that they want.
That's right. Now, finally, we're moving on to Rainmaker, where we started during the second set here. Of course, Crush Soda winning the tower control set. And, I mean, this was a game, it just started off a little slow, and I believe, K-Bot, you pointed out, they just wanted to take it to the right just to get a quick objective and then kind of worry about what was going to happen after that.
Yeah, and like at the end of the day, right, this is probably the play, especially if you're Zero Deaths. You're not sure how much you can actually sustain this push, but what you saw there eventually at the end was Crush Soda sometimes would try to approach that checkpoint on the left and then wasn't really looking to take that right away, right? They wanted to make sure that they could sustain the push after the checkpoint falls, especially when they're the ones second to that checkpoint. Here in this game, of course, on Undertow, they were able to take it down the other route and eventually continue to get wipes, but it was here on Hagglefish where we really saw that component to it. And again, that decision-making and the play style and the kinds of things that they're looking for is certainly something that Crush Soda has down. And unfortunately, this is presumably the last hurrah for this team, right? So they're looking to try to make it as far as they can, and they certainly know how they want to play this game.
Yeah, and 9 on this one in particular, it took a little bit of time for Zero Deaths really to pick up the Rainmaker when they had some control. They're going to get a very nice jump here to extend their lead, and from what we saw, and of course in our analyst chat, it looked like that was going to set them up pretty well, but we well know that there is more to this match.
Yeah, we actually were really confident that this was going to be the game going the other way. Both games sort of catalyzed here with a long scrap in mid that went for a wipeout in favor of Crush Soda. And then this was the moment here. Wave got a very, very quick pick and then got Crab up on this spot. That allowed everybody else to jump back in. And everything after this is gravy in terms of execution. You see them jump in, move the Rainmaker up, and then, of course, tragedy strikes in the most hilarious of ways. But both of those Rainmaker games, I hope, illustrate a concept for you all at home as well, that one opening, when we say that Rainmaker moves very quick, yes, the Rainmaker moves quick and points fly off the board, but it's also a matter of you then get to set yourself up to make a lot of the big fights in the areas you want. And when you see Goss hitting Storm's Inkjet out of the air, it's a big play, but that doesn't happen if they didn't have the time and the full map control to get up into that position. So we say kills are nice, multi-kills are even better, and full wipeouts as good as it gets. So That is the margin of error that these teams are playing on. A tip of the cap, of course, to Zero Deaths for a great fight, and for both of the teams, frankly, Crush Soda for winning, and also just both teams for hanging in there with all the silly business, we'll say.
And I'll repeat it again. Look, the promise is still there for Zero Deaths, right? The reality just might be this isn't quite their time, because now they've got to go up against Jackpot and Nightmare for their final 2 matches to try to make playoffs. And well, obviously we saw both those teams perform. It'll be a tough road ahead for Zero Deaths. And look, this league might not be their time, but expect this roster to go on to do great things in the future for Europe.
Yeah, thank you both for the closing remarks. It was an eventful set to watch. I will say it was very fun, but quite eventful at that.